Fala pessoal, sejam muito bem-vindos ao novo podcast da Defense, o DefenseCast. E hoje é mais um episódio super especial com o CEO da Orca, uma das empresas mais inovadoras de cibersegurança do mercado. E como ele é israelense, a gente vai mudar um pouquinho para o inglês e vamos embora. So let's switch to English. Thank you for joining us. You are one of the founders, right, and CEO of Orca Security, and with over 20 years, I think you have of experience, right?
Yes.
And you led Checkpoint, and now it's leading from idea of Orca and to be one of the great and largest companies in cybersecurity. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And here we have Nycholas Szucko. Nick is one of our board members and a special friend.
Thanks for having me. It's so excited to have one more CEO, from other parts of the world here join our podcast and sharing the experience. For us, it's amazing to have you here. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
To begin, every founder has a story beyond the LinkedIn profile. And what is yours?
So I think that one of the main things that was important for us when we started Orca was around a problem in security and security practice that really bugged us, which was the fact that we felt that as vendors, we are focused on finding problems and not enough in finding solutions. And when we've looked at the space of cloud, we've seen companies and vendors try to migrate technology that's been there for 30 years plus and try to do the same in a completely different landscape.
I remember when I was working in Microsoft during the pandemic, a customer called me and asked me, "Hi Nick, how it's going to be possible to move my AD to run in the Azure?" No, we need to have a completely different perspective, needs to be Azure AD. And since that time, this kind of challenge happens.
Exactly. And when you try, when the world changes, when things changes, you need to see what are also the opportunities for you to grow, to change, to do things differently. And the perception when people were thinking about the cloud was, well, the best security, if it is I don't have anything, I cut cords, then on-prem, and the worst case is cloud. And that perception had to change because we understood that from a technology perspective, there's an opportunity to have better security in the cloud than what was even possible on-prem. And so we've explored what are the opportunities, and we've found a unique technology called side scanning that allows you to really be able to read, to scan all of your environments to find vulnerabilities, malwares, PII, misconfiguration, any kind of risk without installing any agent.
Nice.
Without a need to even have an agent, because having an agent was a chicken and the egg. I only knew on the problem that I was aware that could be a problem. I wasn't aware of the problems that I wasn't aware of. And that had to change. And then suddenly it gave the power to the CISO, gave the power to the security team in the sense of saying, now I know the entire landscape. Now I know all of my risk. And leveraging this technology, I can prepare, I can architect, I can fix, I can remediate, and I can focus on things that matter.
We cannot protect with what we cannot see. No, we need to see what's going on in our environment.
Exactly.
And I like this risk approach because when you talk about risk, you're talking more with the boards, with the C-level, that in the end of the day have the budget and the investments. No,
I think that the worst thing as a manager or as an executive is not to be aware of the problems you need to solve. Right? In any kind of business, in anything, if you're a manager, if you don't know what are the challenges that you need to address, a disaster will happen because they will catch up. When you know the challenges, when you can plan for it, when you can segment it. Doesn't mean that you have to do everything in day one, but at least you have the opportunity to say, I can map 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. These are the top things I want to deal with, and then I can move to the next 5. So it allows decision makers to focus on things that matter, and it also allows you to do things in a much more economic way, because in broad, the cloud is not cheap at all.
Not at all.
But if you plan the usage of the technology, if you know where you have spent, you can re-architect, you can adjust, you can use scaling, you can find ways to even make it cheaper and more affordable than what you had on-prem. Not to mention on the velocity of the engineering, velocity of the development of what you're doing.
Great. And we have usually two kind of customers. One that there's no cloud protection, and the other one that maybe there is something that they are doing, or maybe another competitor that they have. Why Orca? Why should they choose Orca?
Yes. So we've seen it pretty often I would say a few years back, where because of the momentum in the cloud, people try to also build everything, including their security practice. Some of it was based on the fact that technologies didn't have a good fit to the cloud. Okay, if you will go to the DevOps team and tell them they have to install an agent that has 1 gigabyte of size and the container image is 10 megabyte, it doesn't make sense. So you have a lot of friction. And so what happened is that DevOps tried to build on their own, and security teams were late to the game. When leveraging Orca, you don't need to install anything. You get the visibility, and you actually get the DevOps and the engineering team to be on your side, because you don't cause performance impact. You are really accurate, and you have the context, and you can focus on things that matter. And you know how many times DevOps claimed, hey, this is not internet facing. Then with Orca, they understand, hey, it's actually is internet facing, and here's why. And so having the context, the explanation, that translation from security to technology and connect them together, give them the ability to be much more efficient as a team. And so what we've been seeing is that people tried, when companies try to build their own, it's not their core business security. They don't buy threat feeds. They don't invest in investigating new services. It is not their core function as a business, and this is our core function, right? We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in this technology to make it right, to make it effective, to make it cost effective, to grow, to support new services. Does it make sense that every company will make that investment? Probably not. At the same time, companies that have yet to adapt, it's usually what they see is sprawl. The sprawl is not only in security, it's also in cloud spend. Once they connect Orca, suddenly they found there's many areas where they have services running that shouldn't run. No one's using it, doesn't produce business value. And so it's basically leakage of money in the account. And so being able to have that visibility, accountability, prioritization gives them back the power, gives them the ability to do things as they intended and to move at higher velocity as a company.
And from where came the idea to create Orca? It was one day in the shower, or it was a building idea of your friends for a long time?
I think it came from a pain and frustration.
Wow, tell me more about that.
We've seen that many of the solutions at the time were giving you really shallow security layer, which just talks about configuration and best practices.
Or maybe a missing patch to implement.
Yes, and that perspective is, I would say, it's even does not appreciate the complexity, does not appreciate the need of the company to operate in a certain way. And I'll give you an example. There were companies that created an alert for S3 bucket that is open to the internet, publicly facing. Okay, but sometimes a bucket should be a publicly facing. Sometimes if you will make it private, all of your website will stop working because the images are stored in the bucket. And so maybe a different approach is to talk about the fact that a bucket with personal information shouldn't be internet facing.
Good point.
It's a completely different story. We never intended to have leakage of data. And so what we've came to the realization is that we can make security from the inhibitors to the enablers. We can make security better in the cloud. We can allow customers to move faster by giving them the context, by giving them the right data. So when you talk about a vulnerability, companies have so many vulnerabilities. And since we are in a safe room here, everyone have a lot of vulnerabilities. And you cannot fix everything. And what happens is that then you start to prioritize. And then when you prioritize based on the high severity vulnerabilities, it lacks the context of your environment.
Definitely.
What if I can tell you, you have a vulnerability that allows remote code execution on an internet-facing asset that has the ability to have account takeover? We all agree that it needs to be fixed now.
Yeah.
And the context matter. And what if I'll tell you, you have a malware, but it is in your malware lab? Why are you wasting my time?
Good point.
And so context matters. And once you have the context, you can actually say, this is important, this is not important. And being an opinionated vendor, being an opinionated security solution, it's like giving you the advice you need on what to focus or not, and gives you the ability to tune it based on your company needs. When there's a breach in a company, so many times you see, there were 2 logs that show that there's a breach. No one talks about the fact that it's 2 logs out of 2 billion. And so you need a tool that will help you to find these 2 logs and to focus on these and not on the 2 billion.
Definitely.
And the name Orca is such a different name, or does it have a deeper meaning, or you just like orcas?
So definitely deeper meaning. We've been trying to find a good name, and we went through everything. We went through Greek mythology, we went for the animal kingdom, and eventually we landed with Orca, because not many people know, but Orca is actually a dolphin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a whale. Orca has the best sonar in the world. So it can scan wide and deep like what we do.
Nice.
It can travel everywhere in the world. It's an alpha predator, which means that it's apex predator, which means that it's the top of the food chain.
Mm-hmm.
And we felt that it's an animal that is both peaceful but friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And for a security solution,
Nice.
a security company that tries to give you confidence, trust, but also you don't want to get on its bad side, we felt it's a good representative of what we try to do. Along the way, I think that we are the #1 distributor in the world of Orca dolls in conferences. And while everyone have mugs and water bottles, everyone needs an orca because they need a gift for their son.
Yeah.
You nailed it. Good approach. Congratulations.
Makes a lot of sense. So let's go back a bit. What pushed you to become an entrepreneur? Because you were executive, right, in Checkpoint before?
Yes. So I think that what really pushed me is the drive of pushing the industry forward, and I felt that I need to do it on my own in order to really achieve that. And while I would love to say, hey, I'm so smart, I knew that I will do it. No, this is all bullshit. At the end, there's a combination of being bold, having an amazing team to innovate with you, to support you, to be there when you are not sure. And don't tell my first investors, but I remember, like, after 8 or 9 months of starting Orca, I was after a board meeting. We have closed our first customers. We had a good trajectory, and I was sitting with Avi, my good friend and partner of Orca, and I told him, I start to think that we have a good idea.
After 10 months for investment.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And it's not that I didn't believe before that, but it was like, at the end, you could and it happened to us many times. We had good ideas that were terrible to our business, and we had bad ideas that turned out to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to have that modesty and the ability not to fall in love with what you've did and what you are creating, to the fact that you're saying, okay, this is great, this is not great, let's do more of this, let's do less of this, all the time. And I think that pushed us and pushes us all the time to do better.
No, I'm acting right now as a board advisor for Defense and other companies. How do you see this board from the investors pushing you to give you results? They are adding value to, or just pushing to deliver the results? How do you see this relationship between the board and the C-level?
I think what's great about I don't know about many boards. This is my first company. I know about my board.
Okay.
My board is great because they give me a lot of experience, insights, and visibility into other companies.
Okay.
And they appreciate the fact that every company's journey is unique, and that's why you can see that success is hard to replicate. Because there is a unique nature of every entrepreneurship journey, but at the same time, sometimes you hear things that you can adapt to your journey. You can adapt to the way that you're pushing things forward. Another thing that is huge contribution is getting talent.
Nice.
Because getting their insights, getting their visibility on talents, on people that should join your executive team, really helps you to build the right team, and also to manage it through.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
People are the key, right?
Yes.
So in the early days are always messy. Any companies in startups, in technology, in cybersecurity I think it's more messy than normal. What was the biggest challenge that you had, and how do you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge, especially when we started, was even to prove the paradigm that you can actually do things and get better security even without an agent. Okay, now after 6 years, we also have a sensor that you can use.
It was an assumption since the beginning, no agent.
It was an assumption, and it was also not only the assumption, it was something you need to prove.
Okay.
Okay, because I remember one of our first investors brought the CISO of Akamai to a call, and he said, well, there's two options here. Either you guys are complete charlatans and you're scammers, or this is the best idea I ever heard. It's one of the two, nothing in the middle. And we realized that we need to prove out this technology, and we need to prove that it's viable, financially viable, scalable, and all of that. Now 6 years after, we are scanning around 25 million VMs worldwide every day. We are scanning hundreds of millions of containers serverless. So, okay, we are at scale. We know how to do it, but at the beginning, and I think it was very important, when you have a differentiator, when you have an innovative factor, one of the first things you need to prove to yourself and your customers that it is impactful enough to make a difference. Otherwise, you're like everyone else.
Yes, commodity. Now it's just one model.
Yeah, and then like good luck competing, with tech giants with an undifferentiated product, undifferentiated. It's really, really, really hard. And I think in the assumptions, in the technology, it was really important for me to ensure that I'm creating things that are really difficult to replicate. And so we've invested in things that made a difference. So it was agentless, but also the assumption that you can give context, you can prioritize. And I can give you an example of a bad idea that I had.
Good point.
Which really failed in the market, is that we in our initial prioritization, we decided not to use the traditional prioritization, which was low, medium, high, critical. And we said, why? Because we can be really accurate. We can tell you, this is a compromise. You have a compromise in this portion of the network. And then you have an imminent compromise, which means that within 1 or 2 steps, an attacker can gain access and control of your environment. And we had then hazardous, which was like a lower level, which means there is a risk, but we didn't find a material way to use this risk. Then everything else informational. It's great because it's really clear what is the risk and why there is a risk and what is the level of urgency of that risk. It was a terrible idea because no one in the world is working that way.
Just you.
And while, some people loved it, very few people loved it, because while you do have differentiation and new tech, I am working in a certain way. I cannot change the way that I'm working just because you bring in a new set of prioritization. Changing workflows in companies, organizations is really, really, really hard. So instead, we've threw it away. We started using the traditional prioritization in a much more meaningful way, where critical is really critical, high is really high, and so on. And you have a lot less out of these different segments. But at the same time, you can have a new tech connected to your workflows and now work more efficiently. And so it's just an example of, sometimes you take it to an area that will not work, that adoption will be really difficult, and you cannot do everything. You shouldn't try to do everything. And I'll give you an example from a different industry. If you look, for example, at electric cars, it's a completely different engine. It's a completely different experience of driving. And there's no reason for them to have the same shape as traditional cars. But they do it because it's easier for all of us to use the new tech in a way that we are used to, that we are comfortable in. And companies that try to do it in a completely different form weren't adopted in the market, even though it's the same tech, different. You can have it in different shape and so on. So sometimes you need to also think of how people will use it. What is a workflow? Do I really need to innovate that segment? Maybe not yet. Maybe next time.
Exactly. In São Paulo, just one example, the subways here, they had the capability to run by themselves for a long time ago, but the population wasn't ready to see no one in the first train, and it took some years now until we have like the autonomous 100% without a pilot.
Yeah.
You guys were on one of the first ones that I saw that were using already GenAI.
Mhm.
What GenAI does in Orca's product?
So I think GenAI is really disruptive technology. And similarly to what we did when we started Orca, to prove that cloud security is actually better than what's possible on-prem, GenAI, whether people like it or not, is coming to your company, it's coming to your organization. If you don't allow it, people are using it without you knowing it.
Shadow AI.
And I'm not saying it to scare anyone. I'm saying it because this is the reality. We are seeing that 95% of the organization have AI enabled in their cloud. And where we focused is not only about securing AI and giving you the visibility of how it is used, but also around focusing in showing you how AI can be leveraged to obtain better security in your company, better security in your organization. So, for example, we added remediation generation based on AI. How does it work? We are taking the risk that you have. We are anonymizing the risk, removing the names, removing the keys. We are making it anonymized. We are generating code for the engineers to fix the issue.
No way.
Yes, we are then anonymizing the code. So bringing back your naming, your convention, your documentation, everything back to normal. And then you have a code snippet with a remediation steps done. Let's do it. Pull request ready to go. And so now what we did now is that when you go to the engineering and they say, oh, it will take me weeks. No, click here, pull request ready to go. Let's go, fixed. And so showing how it can be leveraged to accelerate, how it can be leveraged to communicate better, is a huge value for security. And then instead of being inhibitors, we can be enablers. Let's enable usage of AI. Let's accelerate the business. Let's allow it to reach its conclusions, because you definitely don't want to be in a position where you're saying, this is the first time I know that we are using AI, and the CEO comes and says, no, we are launching this because it has a huge business upside. I'm taking the risk. Instead of that, let's say, yeah, we were there. We know there's a risk. Here's the risk. We've mapped it. This is what we did against the risk. Let's go.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I like this approach. Based it on risk. All the companies know how to handle risk. No, when we are able to translate the cybersecurity risk to the traditional matrix of discussion, it's going to be easier to take the decisions. No?
Yes, definitely.
And tell us something about your personal journey, where now you feel that this is the first time that you are not able to keep up in all the last launch of AI.
Yes, I think that one of the key things that starts to happen, there was a long time where there is a linear progress in technology. Okay, right? There was a linear progress. Once internet was out, there was a linear progress of technology. Once cloud was out, there was a jump in architecture, jump in capabilities, and then there's a linear growth in technology in the cloud. We are still in the let's say in the mass explosion of AI, of generative AI in the market. We are seeing, just around 1 year ago, 1 year and 6 months, right? The first example of OpenAI was released with DALL-E, with ChatGPT, and you saw things, but there were square things where you would laugh a little bit. Oh, the hand is not in the right place. It has 4 hands. It's not realistic. And then suddenly you see, I can speak in your voice. I can generate images with people I never met. I can generate images with people that don't exist.
Exactly.
There's new models being released every day, and to me it feels like I have to catch up. I have to run. I have to learn fast. I have to adapt, because if my business will not adapt to these new capabilities, we'll be behind. Right? Even small things like support tickets. Okay, company has support tickets, and one of the approaches is to say, hey, we can have a generate response real quick. What about reading the customer's sentiment? Is he mad? Is he upset? Does he lose trust?
Since the first contact, the first words, you can define.
And then that insight could flag that you actually have a problem in this customer environment that you are not aware. And then instead of coming at the end, coming at the beginning and say, why are you upset? What can we do to fix that?
Nice.
How can we better serve you? And so then suddenly it becomes not only a tool for communication, but also a tool that you can learn more about things that map better. It's a business risk at the end. You can map better. And I see so many opportunities for marketing, for generation of content, communication in the company, outside the company. And I think that we have an obligation to our customers to be at the edge, to know that, to explain it, to understand the risk. One of the first things we did was to learn how to build secure AI agent to support the different business cases. Everything you've heard about anonymizing data and de-anonymizing data, about chain of custody. We actually have agents that communicate with each other so that they don't have over permission. So it's not one agent to rule them all. So everyone have a very simple and specific task as a way for you to control the input and the output of every agent. And so being at the verge of technology is part of being an enabler of technology. And that's why we invest so much in it.
Makes completely sense.
Yeah. So Orca stands out in the crowded market, and you have a lot of competitors. What's really sets you apart from the competitors? I think you already have answered something like that, but for clear understanding of customers, why we would choose Orca besides other competitors that are growing from here?
Orca has the biggest investment in our customers, in our technology, in order to provide better cloud security. What really sets us apart is the fact that our mission is to allow you to thrive securely in the cloud. Very, very, very simple, which means that we are not there to be the biggest security company in the world. We are not there to celebrate any individual. And it's important for me to really explain. I'm not the hero of Orca. I am in Orca. I am with a talented team, and where I'm leading them is to be customer obsessed, to make sure that we are there for our customers first when they have an issue, if they have an issue, if they have a security issue, anything. Our research team is there to support them, to support our partners, and we are. And I think that at the end, that's what sets us apart. Where it's not around trying to make the most of our customers; it's trying to be there for our customers first. And I deeply believe that this is the real path of success, because security, it's around trust. Security is around you believing me that I have your back.
Perfect. So looking ahead, how do you see Orca's innovative products, and what is the roadmap, if you can share a little bit with us?
Yes. So I think we are touching many areas. Okay, as mentioned, we have not many people know, but more than 50% of Orca is engineering.
50%.
Wow,
Yeah.
Wow,
that's
nice.
amazing.
Because it's important for us to be in front of the game for our customers. So we have a lot of progress in cloud detection response and runtime and data security and API security and application security, and we've really invested in that technology. But if you ask me, not where we progress, but also what I'm passionate about, I feel that while it's important to find more and map more risks, it's more important to fix more risks. And so our innovation team is mostly working on finding new techniques that dramatically lower the amount of alerts and issues that you have in the environment by prioritization, consolidation, and also by mapping what action will provide the best ROI.
Nice.
And I'll give you a simple example. Let's say, for example, you have 600,000 vulnerabilities. What if I can tell you that only 1,500 out of them are the ones that you should fix? It's good progress still. 1,500
A lot of work to do
are
still.
a lot of work. Okay, what if I can tell you that out of these 1,500, we can map it to 4 images you need to actually patch? Yes, it has many instances in your cloud, but if you fix these 4 images, you're done.
Laser focus.
And so now from these 1,500 tasks that will take me 5 years to fix, I move to 4 that I can fix in the next week. And now let's move to the next problem. And so investing in these kinds of technologies that still 1,500 out of 600,000 sounds amazing, but not good enough.
You need to be realistic, not too many people on the cybersecurity operations.
And if you think about it, vendors are so obsessed about finding the next problem. What about finding the next solution? Let's find the next solution. Let's be focused and obsessed as much as we are on finding the risk, on finding the solution, consolidating it. And if you think about it, sometimes providing too much risk to the company basically makes it impossible to fix anything. Because let's say I can fix 10 issues a week. If I have 2,000 issues, I'm going nowhere. How many risks are being created every week?
A little too many.
Yeah. So like what should I do? Like, so it's like a bucket that continues to be filled with more and more issues while it's leaking. And so I think with generative AI, there's an opportunity to find new ways, but also with other technologies that we are invested. I can't share, it's going to be announced in RSA, but we've patented a new technology that allows us to be really disruptive in the way we prioritize and reduce risk.
Yeah. When I was working to Nozomi, that provides cybersecurity to the plants and energy sectors and everything else, we need to see that we have a Windows 7 running in the plan. No, we can reduce the surface of attack. We can include compensation controls, but it's going to be a risk that we cannot remove right now because of the big machine that generate all the production. But we know where it is. We create compensation control. We reduce the surface of the attack. This is a good approach to follow. No, discuss the risk and put the right measures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to wrap up, I think we are almost done. For people that are starting a new company in cybersecurity, what's your advice for them?
I think that focus on a real problem,
Difficult to solve.
difficult to solve, even maybe the most boring you can think of, because these tend to be problems not many people want to solve. And so I think that if you will be a very good listener to your customers, to your prospects, to your partners, you'll do great. If you will fall in love with what you're doing, you're going to get lost real quick. So be a good listener and adaptive.
Great. Super helpful. So that was an amazing conversation. Thank you for having us. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us too, Nick.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Well, so that's it. I think we're done for today, and I hope that we can work a lot together, and Orca will be the next I don't know, IPO or something. What you guys are planning?
I think that while people a lot of time ask me about these kind of things, I'm mostly obsessed with becoming the best cloud security solution. This is my obsession, and as long as we'll provide the best solution, I think everything else will be okay. And especially when this is the first time for me as a CEO here in Brazil. The Brazilian market is so much moving so fast, growing, innovating. I think that over the last few days, I've met dozens of customers that we have in the region and prospects. And what you can see that the region is really maturing in terms of fact, you find technical people and people that are eager to innovate, to do more stuff, to succeed. And I think it's beautiful to see it because such an amazing culture combined with good technology can do amazing stuff. So I really believe that we're going to see a lot of growth of technology here in Brazil over the next few years. And I see that cloud adoption here is growing tremendously. And so for us, that's why we've chosen to build a data center in Brazil and hosted in Brazil in one of the cloud providers. And we are looking forward for the collaboration and opportunity here in the market. We are definitely here for the market.
Great.
Oh, nice. Amazing event. No, on data center here, more people for the team too, or no?
Yes.
Growing the team.
Yeah. We've grown the team quite significantly and it's growing more.
Glad to hear. So much investing in our region. Let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And that's it. Então, é isso, pessoal. Obrigado por estarem com a gente hoje. E não esqueça de seguir a gente em todas as plataformas ou nas plataformas favoritas de vocês. Obrigado.